Hey, today I've got some chilling, true Reddit stories that genuinely had me sleeping with the lights on. If you want more of these videos, hit subscribe and drop a like. Let's get into it. My dog came back after 6 months missing, and now she won't go near our bedroom. 27-year-old female. Posted 3 days ago on r/nosleep by Sleepless in Pinewood. Sometimes a title alone is enough to stop you mid-scroll. A missing dog comes home and suddenly refuses to go near one room in the house? That kind of detail gets under your skin before you even start reading. So, I'm 27F, living with my fiance in a small house just outside Pinewood. We've been together 4 years, and we have a dog, Maple. 9-year-old Beagle mix, absolute love of my life. 6 months ago, she vanished from our backyard. No hole in the fence, no gate left open, just gone. I put up flyers everywhere. Checked shelters every single day for weeks, posted on every lost pet page I could find. I drove around the neighborhood at night calling her name until my voice gave out. After about 2 months, my fiance sat me down and said we needed to accept she probably wasn't coming back. I hated him for saying it, but he was right. I grieved her like she died. Then, 3 weeks ago, I opened the front door and Maple is just sitting on the porch. Finner, collar gone, but alive. I lost it. I was on the floor sobbing, holding this dog for 20 minutes. But something was off from the start. She wouldn't come inside the normal way. She crept in low to the ground, checking corners like she expected something to be waiting. She moves stiff now, sits unnaturally upright like she's locked onto something none of us can see. And she will not cross the threshold into our bedroom. Will not do it. I figured trauma. Whatever happened out there must have been bad. First night back, I woke up at 3 a.m. to this low, continuous growl from the hallway. Maple was standing rigid outside our door, growling. Not at me, past me. At something behind me inside the room. I turned around. My fiancé was sitting straight up in bed, pitch dark, eyes wide open, smiling. He didn't say a word, just sitting there, in the dark, eyes open, smiling at nothing. And the only one in that house who reacted was the dog. This story has an update, and it only gets worse from here. So, the next morning, OP tries to shake the whole thing off. And to be fair, her fiancé gives her a pretty reasonable explanation. But here's the thing about rationalizing something your gut already rejected. It only holds together until the details start piling up. He laughed it off, said he didn't remember sitting up at all, and that tracked. He's always been a restless sleeper. Talks in his sleep, kicks the covers off, whole 9 yards. So I told myself, okay, weird night, Maple is still readjusting, we move on. But over the next few days, I noticed a pattern. Maple would follow me everywhere. Kitchen, bathroom, laundry room. But the second I walked toward the bedroom, she'd stop dead in the hallway. Like a sentry. Paws together, ears forward, rigid. She would not cross that line. With my fiancé, it was more subtle. She never growled at him during the day. She just watched him. Her head tracked him across every room without blinking, like she was studying something behind his face. And the thing is, he seemed completely normal, making dinner, cracking jokes, being sweet. But these micro details kept nagging. He used to toss and turn all night. Now he sleeps perfectly still. Flat on his back, hands at his sides, like someone arranged him there. During long conversations, he barely blinks. And twice I walked into a room and found him just standing there. Not on his phone, not looking at anything. Just standing. Both times I asked what he was doing, and there was this half-second delay before he said, "Just thinking." Same words, same tone, same pause. I started sleeping with the bedroom door open. Maple still won't come in, but now I can see her from the bed. Every single night she's sitting in that hallway, wide awake, facing the door, watching. OP is clearly fighting her own instincts here, listing all the normal things he does like she's building a case for him. But the list of not normal things is growing faster. And that last image is the one that stuck with people. A 9-year-old beagle who survived 6 months on her own out there, sitting in a dark hallway every single night, wide awake, staring at a door she refuses to walk through. Dogs don't do that for no reason. Whatever Maple knows, she came back anyway. And she's not leaving her post. So OP does what most of us would do first. She calls her sister. My sister said it was probably trauma. Whoever had Maple those 6 months might have hurt her, and now she associates the bedroom with that pain. I wanted to believe it. But Thursday night, I decided to test something. Got into bed, slowed my breathing, kept my eyes barely cracked open. Within 5 minutes of me going still, Jake sat up. Not like someone waking up, he just rose. Straight up, hands on his lap, facing the wall. He didn't move, didn't shift or scratch or do anything a person does in their sleep. He just sat there. Then Maple. Low growl from the hallway, steady, like a warning she'd been holding. Jake's head turned toward the door. Slow, mechanical, like something rotating on a track. The second his face pointed at that doorway, Maple went silent. I heard her nails clicking backward on the hardwood, retreating. I lay there for over an hour, heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it. He never moved, never looked down at me, just sat there facing the hallway. Then he lay back down in one smooth motion, like a machine powering off. Morning came and he made coffee, kissed my forehead, asked about dinner. I smiled and said, pasta. Then I locked myself in the bathroom and started looking up nanny cams. The comments on this one were urgent. The fact that Maple came back is what gets me. She got away from whatever that situation was and still returned to protect you. Dogs know. My ex used to do something similar, not the sitting up thing, but the dog absolutely refused to be in the same room as him. I didn't listen. I should have listened to the dog. The 4 minutes before your alarm is the part that's making me sick. That's not sleepwalking. That's someone who knows exactly what they're doing and when to stop. That's exactly what broke me. I wanted so badly to believe it was some kind of sleep disorder, but the timing is exact. Every single night. 5:26 a.m., he lies back down. My alarm goes off at 5:30. He's been rehearsing being asleep for me. A few days later, OP came back with an update post, and from the very first line, you could tell something had broken. I watched the footage, and Maple isn't the one who changed. I set up the nanny cam on the bookshelf like some of you suggested, hid it behind a picture frame. I recorded for a full week before I watched any of it. I wish I never had. Every single night, within 5 to 10 minutes of me falling asleep, he sits up, straight up, hands on his lap, eyes open. And he stays like that for hours. 3 hours some nights, 4 on others. Then he lies back down exactly 4 minutes before my alarm goes off. Every single night. No variation. I thought maybe it started recently, so I dug deeper. We used to have a cloud-synced camera in the bedroom from when Maple was a puppy. I found archived footage from over a year ago, before Maple even went missing. He was doing it then too, the entire time. Then I found the worst clip. Roughly a week before Maple disappeared. She's on the bed, curled up. He sits up the way he always does. Then he reaches over, slow and deliberate, and grabs Maple by the scruff of her neck, lifts her slightly off the bed. And then he turns and stares directly into the camera lens. Not near it, into it, like he knew it was there, like he's always known. I went completely numb. I'm writing this from the bathroom floor with the door locked and Maple pressed against my legs. That last detail sent the comment section into a full spiral. Him sitting up in the dark smiling is one of the most visceral things I've read on here. I physically recoiled. Please tell me you've shown the footage to someone you trust. Do not confront him alone. Do not, seconding this hard. People who are this calculated about not being caught do not react well when they find out they've been watched. OP, please take this seriously. And OP read every single one of those comments. But she was still in the house, and he was still in the bed. OP doesn't build to some big confrontation. There's no dramatic showdown, no screaming match. She just waits for him to leave for work, and then she goes. I packed a bag while he was at work, took Maple, my laptop, and the hard drive with the footage. I drove 2 hours to my sister's house, and I didn't stop once. I filed a police report the next day. They were sympathetic, but told me there was nothing technically criminal. No assault, no threats, no evidence of animal abuse beyond a single ambiguous clip. Case closed before it started. He started texting that night, non-stop. Calls, voicemails, everything. And that's the part that keeps me up, because his messages aren't angry. They're not threatening. They're calm and confused and loving. I don't understand what happened. Did I do something wrong? Please just talk to me. He sounds exactly like the man I fell in love with. And I don't know if he is that man, or if that man ever existed, or if there's even a difference. I haven't gone back. I don't think I will. Maple sleeps at the foot of the guest bed now, every single night, facing the door. She still won't turn her back to it. I don't know what she saw in those 6 months she was gone. I don't know what she sees when she looks at him. But she knew before I did, and she came back anyway. A few comments rolled in after that final post. I keep thinking about how long he's been doing this. You said Maple disappeared 6 months ago. How long were you living with him before that? Maple is the best girl. She came back for you. Some doors should stay closed. I hope you never go back. Here's what sits with me about this one. We trust the people we sleep next to more than anyone else in our lives. More than friends, more than family. And sometimes the only one keeping watch, the only one who knows something is wrong, is the one who can't tell you what she saw. But this isn't the only story tonight where someone figured out too late what was sharing their bed. My parents' church found out what I confessed when I was 15, and now the entire congregation is pressuring them to cut me off. 26-year-old female. This one sat with me for a while. Posted 5 days ago on r/offmychest by Hollow Sunday Girl. I need you to stick with this one all the way through because the way it builds is unlike anything I've covered before. It starts off looking like family drama, but pay close attention to how the power dynamics shift underneath. I, 26-year-old female, grew up in a small evangelical church, the kind where everyone knows everyone, and if you miss a service, people are calling your house by Monday. My parents are still deeply involved. Dad's a deacon, Mom runs the women's ministry. Their entire world is that building and those people. I left at 18, moved 3 states away, and have had almost zero contact with anyone from the congregation since. So when my mom called last Tuesday sounding like someone had died, I genuinely thought it was about my grandmother. Instead, she tells me the church elders held a meeting about me specifically, and my parents have been given an ultimatum: publicly denounce me or face expulsion from the church. I kept asking why. What could I have possibly done from 3 states away to warrant an emergency meeting of elders? She wouldn't answer at first, kept saying it was complicated, that I wouldn't understand. Then she finally said it. It's about something I confessed to the youth pastor when I was 15. My heart stopped. That was supposed to be private, a one-on-one session during the absolute worst year of my life, and I trusted him completely. I called a friend who's still on the inside, and what she told me made me physically sick. He recorded every single confession session. Every kid who ever sat in that room poured their heart out into a microphone they didn't know was there. Those recordings have been stored and circulated among the elders for years, used as leverage over families who might consider leaving. My most vulnerable moment at 15 was never confidential. It was collected. That last line is where it lands. She was 15 and broken, and she trusted someone, and that trust was turned into a tool of control. But OP is not done digging, and what comes out of this church gets so much darker from here. So now OP is in the thick of it. Her parents have been given a deadline, and they will not tell her what exactly was said behind those closed doors. All she knows is the clock is ticking, and her parents are terrified. My parents will not tell me what was played at that meeting. All my mom said is the elders gave them a deadline: publicly denounce me or face expulsion. I need people to understand what that means for them. That church is their entire world. Every friend, every social connection, my dad's plumbing business, 80% of his clients come through the congregation. Their retirement housing is church affiliated. Expulsion means total social and economic destruction for 2 people in their 60s. So I called the youth pastor directly. He is a senior pastor now at a sister church. I asked him, "Did you record our sessions?" He did not hesitate, called it spiritual accountability documentation, standard practice. Then he said this could all go away if I came back and made a public statement of repentance. He was not ashamed. He genuinely believes he had every right to secretly record a 15-year-old girl at her lowest. That is when it hit me. It was not just me. Every kid who sat in that room and cried and confessed, they were all recorded. Dozens of teenagers over years giving up their darkest secrets into a microphone they never knew was there. And that right there is the part that made my stomach drop. She is not dealing with one bitter person holding a grudge over something from years ago. She is staring at something that was built from the ground up to collect leverage on vulnerable teenagers. And the man who built it is not ashamed. He is not hiding. He genuinely thinks she owes him a public apology for being upset about it. That is the shape of what she is up against. And trust me, it gets worse from here. Things started moving fast after that phone call, and not in OP's favor. Over the next few days, my phone just would not stop. People from the church I haven't spoken to since I was a teenager started reaching out. A couple were genuinely kind. One woman from the choir told me she was praying for me and that she didn't think any of this was right. But most of them were not kind. Most of them wanted me to know I was hurting my parents, that I was being selfish, that reconciliation was right there if I would just stop being so prideful. Then my dad sent me a text that was longer than anything he's ever written me in my life. He said I was tearing the family apart by being stubborn, that if I just came to one reconciliation meeting, this would all go away. He said the elders were being patient, but that patience had limits. I read it 3 times and cried, because part of me believed him. Part of me thought maybe I am the problem. I brought it to my therapist, and she said something that rewired my brain. She said, "They are leveraging shame they manufactured access to. You did not give them permission to know this. They took it, and now they are punishing you for not being grateful they kept it quiet this long. That is not accountability. That is control." Something shifted after that session. I stopped feeling afraid and started feeling angry. I looked into legal options, but honestly, I don't even know where to start. Recording a minor without consent has to be illegal, but the laws in my state are murky, and I don't know if a confession to a pastor even counts the same way. The comments on this one were loud, and a few hit exactly where they needed to. Recording confessions of minors without consent is absolutely illegal in most states. Please tell me you're talking to a lawyer. I literally got goosebumps reading this. You were 15. What kind of adult records a child's confession and keeps it for over a decade? I need you to understand something. Your parents aren't being pressured. They're participating. People who are genuinely being coerced don't deliver ultimatums on behalf of their coercers. I know. I think I've known for a while, but seeing someone else say it makes it harder to keep pretending. My dad used the exact same phrases Pastor Keller uses, word for word, like he was reading from a script. Maybe he was. That last reply from OP sat heavy, and things were about to get heavier. 3 weeks of radio silence. No calls, no texts, nothing from the family. Then OP came back with an update post. My mom sent me something, and now I understand why they chose the church over me. I got a package in the mail 4 days ago, no return address. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note from my mother. I plugged it in, and there were dozens of audio files. Kids' confessions going back almost 10 years. I recognized voices, friends from youth group, kids who sat next to me at Sunday school, all recorded without any of us knowing. My mother's note said, "Destroy this. Come to the meeting on Sunday. We can fix everything. They don't know I have this copy." She was holding evidence that this church systematically recorded minors during their most vulnerable moments and used those recordings as leverage for over a decade. And her instinct was to ask me to destroy it, then use it to pull me back in. Not to protect me, not to protect any of those kids, to protect the institution. She had the thing that could blow this wide open, and she chose to shield the people who did it. She chose the church. I think she has always chosen the church. I just didn't want to believe it until she handed me the proof and asked me to set it on fire. Let that land for a second. Her own mother had the evidence in her hands, and her move was to ask her daughter to help bury it. The comments did not hold back on this one. This isn't a church. This is a control structure with a cross on the door. I'm so sorry, OP. I grew up in something similar. They kept a literal file on every family. The day you stop being useful is the day they weaponize it. Get out and don't look back. This is textbook high control group behavior. Stephen Hassan's BITE model covers exactly this. Information control, leveraging personal disclosures. OP's community checks every single box. This is where it sits. OP has the drive, she has the note, and she has a decision that is going to define everything that comes next. This is where Hollow Sunday Girl's story lands. She came back one last time with an update. My mom sent me something, and now I understand why they chose the church over me. I made copies of the USB, 3 sets, one with my lawyer, one in a safe deposit box, one with a friend who lives out of state. I retained an attorney who specializes in institutional abuse cases. She told me what I already knew. Recordings of minors made without consent in a counseling setting, stored and distributed among church leadership for leverage. That's not accountability. That's a pattern. I did not go to the Sunday meeting. My parents blocked my number that same evening. My sister sent me one text, just one line. You chose this. I didn't choose any of this. I was 15 years old. I was scared and alone, and I trusted someone who told me that God was listening. God wasn't the one who pressed record. My dad left me a voicemail 2 days ago. I haven't listened to it yet. I don't know if I will. Part of me wants to hear him say he's sorry, but a bigger part of me knows that if I listen and he doesn't, that's a door I can never close again. So for now, the voicemail sits there, unplayed. I'm not ready. And I don't have to be. The comments on this final update hit a nerve. The fact that your mom sent you the USB but told you to destroy it is chilling. She knows it's wrong, but she's still choosing them. Stories like this one stay with you because there's no single villain you can point at. It's a whole system. The people who are supposed to protect you, your parents, your pastor, your community, sometimes they choose to protect the institution instead. And the hardest part is that standing up against it, breaking the cycle, refusing to stay silent, it doesn't come with a soundtrack and a standing ovation. It looks like blocked numbers and unanswered voicemails. It looks like losing everything. But Hollow Sunday Girl made copies. She got a lawyer. She's still here. And sometimes that's what courage actually looks like. Not winning, just refusing to disappear. All right, on to the next one. My mom, 62-year-old female, passed away last week. I, 34-year-old female, found journals in her closet that go back to the year I was born, and I can't stop shaking. This one comes from r/offmychest, posted about 3 days ago by a user called Boxes in the Closet. I am telling you right now, this story does not go where you think it goes. Not even close. She opens with the kind of bluntness that only comes when someone is too shaken to sugarcoat anything. I'm 34-year-old female. My mom died last week. No long illness, no hospice. Just a phone call on a Tuesday and a casket by Thursday. She was 62. I have 2 siblings, but I'm the only one close enough to deal with the house, so that fell to me. I've been going over every day after work sorting through her things alone. Her bedroom still smells like her. That cheap vanilla perfume she wore every day of my life. I started with the master closet. Clothes, shoes, old photos. Then I pulled a shelf out and the back panel was loose. Not broken. Loose in a way that felt intentional. Behind it was a row of black journals. Identical. Lined up perfectly. Each one had a year on the spine in her handwriting. They started the year I was born and went all the way to this year. 34 journals. I grabbed one from the middle, thinking it would be diary entries or something sentimental. First line read, "Subject displayed heightened emotional response to peer rejection. Recovery time, approximately 48 hours. Appetite suppressed for first 24 hours, returned to baseline." Every page was like that. Sleep logs, calorie estimates, social interaction tallies. My mother wrote about me like I was a lab rat. I dropped the journal and sat on the closet floor for an hour before I could move. 34 identical journals. One for every single year she has been alive. Every entry written in cold, clinical language like a research paper. No warmth. No, I love my daughter. Just data points on her own child. And that is only the beginning of this story. She goes back to the beginning. Year 1, 1992. 34 journals laid out on the floor in order, and she starts reading front to back. Infancy, childhood, teenage years, each one heavier than the last. I started with 1992, thought maybe the early ones would feel different. They didn't. My birth entry logs weight, APGAR scores, feeding response. Not, my daughter is here. Just numbers. First word. Verbal milestone achieved at 11 months, consistent with expected range. First steps got a date and a note about gait stability. No pride. The childhood ones broke me. Every night at dinner, my mom asked how my day was. That warm voice, that soft smile. Turns out every answer went into the journal, sorted by category. Social interactions, emotional responses, academic performance. She was filling in a form. Then the teenage years. My first period, logged. First crush on Derek, noted as onset of romantic fixation. Then, March 2007. He told everyone something private about me. I came home sobbing. Mom held me on the couch for 2 hours, stroked my hair, told me I was okay. One of my strongest memories of her. The journal entry. Subject exhibited acute emotional distress following peer betrayal. Crying duration approx 1 hour, 47 minutes. Physical comfort applied. Physical comfort applied. I called my sister. She said I was grieving. I hung up and sat on that floor, and I have never felt more alone. That's the moment it shifts from unsettling to something else entirely. Because it's not just that her mother was watching. It's that the tenderness was part of the method. Every gentle moment filed away as data. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Nobody in her family wants to hear it. Her sister thinks she's spiraling. And she's sitting alone in her dead mother's house, realizing she might be the only person who knows what really happened in that family. So she keeps reading. OP kept going. And what she found in the later journals hit different than the childhood ones. The adult journals are somehow worse. Every phone call I ever made to my mom is logged. Duration, my reported mood, topics I brought up. When I visited home, she wrote behavioral notes the same evening. I found her entry from my wedding day. My wedding day. Not a single mention of the word beautiful or proud. Just, subject exhibited elevated stress markers during ceremony. Social performance during reception was notably controlled. Forced laughter observed twice during toasts. That's what my mother wrote about the happiest day of my life. She tracked my pregnancies in the margins, my morning sickness patterns, my weight. And then she started on my kids, logging their early behaviors the same way she logged mine. I lost it. I sat on her bedroom floor and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. I photographed pages and sent them to my brother. He called me back and said Mom was just organized, and that I need to stop disrespecting our dead mother. I'm not disrespecting her. I'm terrified of her. But I couldn't stop reading. Near the back of a 2019 journal, I found a loose sheet of paper, university letterhead, a subject number, and a reference to something called a longitudinal behavioral study. I don't know what it means yet, but something in my chest just locked into place. That last detail changed the entire thread. I'm so sorry, OP. The third-person language is what gets me. That's not how a mother writes about her child. That's how a researcher writes about a specimen. This is the kind of thing that rewires how you see your entire childhood. Every single memory now has a second version running underneath it. I'm so sorry. Please check if there are journals about your siblings too. If there aren't, that's a whole other layer of disturbing. I checked. There's nothing about my brother or my sister, just me. 34 journals, and every single one has my name, or rather, a subject number, at the top of every entry. My brother came over yesterday, and I showed him, and he just kept saying, "That doesn't sound like Mom," over and over. But it is her handwriting. I've been staring at it for days, and that university letterhead, OP was about to pull on that thread next. OP came back with an update post, and this one rewrites everything. I contacted the university, and what they told me is worse than the journals. So I found that loose sheet with the university letterhead I mentioned. I called the psychology department, got transferred 4 times before anyone knew what I was talking about. A department administrator finally confirmed it. There was a longitudinal behavioral observation study approved in the late 80s. It tracked children from birth through adulthood using parental observation logs. Parents were recruited to document their kids: sleep, eating, emotional responses, social behavior, all of it. The study lost its ethics board approval in 1997 over informed consent violations. The subjects, the kids, were never told they were being observed. Most parents stopped after that. My mother didn't. She kept submitting data packets for years after approval was revoked. When the study officially dissolved, she just kept going on her own. No pay, no oversight. Nearly 20 more years. I asked if my mom was a researcher. No. She was recruited as a contributing parent observer. Contributing parent observer. My whole life was the experiment. Every dinner conversation, every time she held me while I cried, data collection. She wasn't journaling out of love. She wasn't even obsessing. She was fulfilling a role. Reactions to this one were immediate. I worked in academic research for years. Longitudinal studies require informed consent, especially involving minors. What your mother did was not legal. Full stop. And the university just washed their hands of it after revoking approval? They had a participant, a child, whose data was still being collected without consent for almost 30 years. The institution failed here too. The fact that she kept going after the study lost its ethics approval tells you everything. She wasn't doing it for the university anymore. She was doing it because she wanted to. And that right there is where this story shifts from unsettling to something else entirely. A few days later, OP posted one last time. And this one reads like someone writing on fumes. I contacted the university, and what they told me is worse than the journals. I'll keep this short because I don't have much left in me. The lawyer sent a formal inquiry to the university. Their response was essentially, "We have no record of ongoing participation past 1997, and we accept no liability for actions taken independently by former contributors." So that's it. They're treating my mother like a rogue actor who went off script. Maybe she was. I don't know anymore. My brother and sister have both blocked me. My sister left me one final voicemail calling me cruel and selfish for dragging Mom's name through the dirt while her body is barely cold. My brother texted that I need psychiatric help and that I'm fabricating things to cope with grief. So I changed my phone number. I started therapy last Tuesday. My therapist told me the hardest part won't be the journals themselves. It'll be learning to trust my own memories again. Every good moment I ever had with my mom, I now have to sit with the question of whether it was real or whether it was just a data point she needed. I don't know how to do that yet. But here's the part I can't stop thinking about. I went back through the last journal one final time. In the back, past the final entry about me, there's a new section, a fresh subject number, started just 2 years ago. The entries are about my daughter. That last line lands like a closed fist. I keep thinking about all the times you probably called her just to talk, and she was sitting there writing it all down afterward. I feel sick for you. The scariest part of this whole story isn't what OP's mother did. It's that OP can never unknow it. She can never go back to the version of her childhood that felt safe. She can't sit with a single happy memory without wondering if it was harvested. And now, there's a new subject number. Her daughter's name is in those journals. That's where it ends, and that's where it starts all over again. I don't have a neat verdict on this one. I'm not going to pretend I do. I just want to ask you, what would you do if you found those journals? How do you even begin to separate the mother from the researcher? All right, next story is coming up, and it's a completely different kind of heavy. I'm a park ranger, 28-year-old male, and there's a woman on Trail 9 that none of us are allowed to talk about. This one was posted to r/nosleep 5 days ago by Ridgewalker Actual. It starts quiet. The the way the worst ones always do. OP is a park ranger, 28-year-old male, stationed at a remote national forest in Montana. 2 years into the job, and from the very beginning, he can tell the old-timers are holding something back. I've been a ranger at a national forest in Montana for about 2 years now. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever worked. Big sky, old-growth pine, the kind of silence that actually feels healthy. I love this job. But something has always been off with the veteran staff. They rotate trail assignments freely. You cover what needs covering, nobody's precious about it. Except Trail 9. Nobody takes Trail 9 after dusk. I asked about it a few times. Got nothing. Not even a bad excuse, just a subject change so smooth it felt rehearsed. I asked my senior partner Dale directly one night, and he just looked at me and started talking about the weather. So last Thursday I was on a late shift, got asked to do a perimeter check, and I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I hiked Trail 9 alone. First 10 minutes felt normal. Then, around a quarter mile in, everything went quiet. Not peaceful quiet, wrong quiet. No insects, no wind, nothing. And then I saw her. A tall figure in a pale blue dress, standing completely still between the pines, facing away from me. I stopped. I looked at her for maybe 2 seconds. That's all it took. My nose just exploded. Blood pouring down my chin, soaking into my jacket collar. And this sound hit me. This high-pitched tone inside my skull, like tinnitus cranked to a scream. I don't remember turning around, but I must have, because next thing I know, I'm stumbling back out at the trailhead. Dale was standing there. Didn't ask what happened. Didn't look surprised. Just handed me a towel and said, "You looked, didn't you?" No follow-up questions. No explanation. Just 5 words from a man who already knew exactly what OP was going to find out there. And that is where this story begins. So OP survived Trail 9. Nose finally stopped bleeding. But whatever happened out there did not just stay out there. The nosebleed stopped after about 20 minutes, but the tone, that high-pitched screaming frequency, it stayed. Not at full volume, more like a bruise fading out slow. Took almost 4 days before I stopped hearing it completely. I tried bringing it up with the other rangers. Nothing dramatic, just casual. "Hey, anything weird about Trail 9?" And nobody denied it. That's what got me. They didn't laugh it off or call me crazy. They just went blank. Changed the subject. Asked if I wanted coffee. Every single one of them. Same non-reaction. That's when I understood. This isn't confusion. This is policy. So I started watching the shift logs. Trail 9 is never assigned after 6 p.m. Ever. Not once in 2 years of records. And any incident reports from that area read like a lawyer wrote them. Vague to the point of meaninglessness. Unusual wildlife activity. Atmospheric disturbance noted. Nothing real. I cornered Dale one night after shift. We grabbed beers at the place in town. 3 drinks in, I asked him straight. He put his beer down and told me 3 things. Don't go back. Don't talk about what you saw. And whatever you do, don't listen for her footsteps. I asked what happens if you listen. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said you start hearing them in places she shouldn't be. I haven't gone back to Trail 9, but something is off at my apartment now. There's this feeling when I walk past doorways, like someone was just standing there a second ago. And 2 nights ago I came home and my hallway smelled like pine needles. I live in a second-floor apartment, no trees near my windows. I keep telling myself it's paranoia, and that right there is where this story starts to shift. Because up until now, you could maybe rationalize this as some weird phenomenon isolated to one trail in the middle of nowhere. But OP is sitting in his own apartment smelling pine needles that have no business being there. The wilderness followed him home. And the thing Dale said, you start hearing them in places she shouldn't be, that line is going to come back in a way OP is absolutely not ready for. OP couldn't leave it alone. And that's where this story starts to shift from creepy encounter to something with actual history behind it. I went down to the station basement. Nobody goes down there. It's just old gear and filing cabinets and decades of logbooks stacked on metal shelving. Leather-bound, water-damaged, some going back to the 1960s. I started pulling anything that referenced Trail 9. Most of it was routine. Trail maintenance, wildlife sightings, weather damage. But scattered through the 1970s, I started finding them. The figure, the woman in blue, Trail 9 apparition. Different rangers, different years, same description every time. Pale blue dress, motionless, standing between the pines. That's not how memory works. People don't describe something the exact same way across a decade unless they're all seeing the exact same thing. Some entries mention the nosebleeds, the tone, that lingering wrongness that sits behind your eyes for days. Then I found the last entry in one of the 1978 logbooks, Ranger R. Ellison. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. It read, "She followed me home. She's in the hallway and I can hear her not making sounds." That was the last thing he ever wrote. I pulled his personnel file. Reported missing November 1978. No body recovered. No follow-up investigation beyond a single page of notes. I sat there in that basement for a long time after that. The silence from the veteran staff, Dale, all of them. It's not professional detachment. It's not denial. It's survival. They built a quiet system around something none of them can explain, and the system works exactly one way. You don't look, you don't listen, you don't ask. That Ellison line hit the comments different. The part about hearing her not making sounds is going to live in my head rent-free. That's not silence, that's something actively suppressing noise, completely different thing. The 1970s logbook entry is what got me. That ranger wrote, "She's in the hallway," and then just stopped writing. He didn't run, didn't call anyone. He sat there and documented it like he knew it was the last thing he'd ever write. And that last detail, the single page of investigation notes, somehow makes it worse. Not a cover-up, just a system that learned to stop asking questions. So remember how OP was sitting in that station basement staring at Ellison's file? 2 days go by. Then OP came back with an update post. I checked the cameras again, and I'm staying at a friend's place now. So after reading through the Ellison entry, I couldn't shake the pine smell in my hallway. It was stronger, not faint anymore, thick, like standing in a grove of fresh-cut timber. I bought a cheap security camera and set it up in my kitchen facing the hallway door. Reviewed 3 nights of footage. Most of it is nothing. Dark kitchen, timestamp ticking, refrigerator hum. Then I got to the night after my Trail 9 hike. At 3:14 a.m., one frame. A single frame. A tall shape standing in my kitchen doorway. Not blurred like a glitch or a compression artifact. Sharp. Defined. Pale blue. The second I saw it on my laptop screen, my hands went ice cold. The tone came back. That same high-pitched drilling from the trail. My nose started bleeding onto my keyboard from looking at a screen. That's when it clicked. The rule isn't about the trail, it's about observation. Looking at her in any form, in person, in a photograph, on a screen, that is what triggers it. Observing her is what gives her permission to observe you back. That's why Ellison's camera was never recovered. That's why nobody talks about it. You don't just avoid the trail, you avoid the knowledge. And then the comment section started doing what comment sections do, connecting dots nobody asked them to connect. Former NPS seasonal here. Every park has a version of this. The old-timers never explain it, they just tell you which trails to avoid after dark, and you learn real fast not to ask why. The transfer being approved in hours is honestly the scariest detail. That means this has happened enough times that they have a process for it. They absolutely do. When I was seasonal, a guy on our crew got reassigned to a station 400 miles away overnight. No explanation, no exit interview. His locker was cleaned out by morning. We were told he wanted to be closer to family. His family lived 20 minutes from our station. OP came back one more time. And this final update reads like someone closing a door they already know won't hold. I checked the cameras again, and I'm staying at a friend's place now. I put in for a transfer 3 days ago. Different park, different state. It was approved within hours. No questions, no exit interview, no paperwork delays. Like they had the folder ready and were just waiting for me to ask. Before I left, I checked the kitchen camera one last time. I know I shouldn't have. 3 more single frames. 3 consecutive nights. Each one, the shape was closer to the camera. In the last frame, I could almost make out a face, or where a face should be. I stopped checking after that. I deleted all the footage. I'm not going back to the house for my things. I'm at a friend's place now, and I don't sleep with the lights off anymore. I don't know what she is. I don't think anyone does. But I understand now what the veteran rangers understand. Some things in the wilderness don't stay in the wilderness if you acknowledge them. The only protection is willful ignorance, and I broke that. I looked. I listened. I went digging through old logbooks, and now she knows where I live. If you work in a park and there's a trail nobody talks about, don't ask. Don't hike it after dark. Don't look. That's not curiosity, that's an invitation. What haunts me about this story isn't the figure in blue, it's the silence around her. An entire department built quiet protocols over decades. Unsigned rules, blank shift logs, transfers approved in hours, not because they solved the problem, but because they learned the only way to survive it is to pretend it doesn't exist. And the moment OP broke that contract, the boundary between the forest and his kitchen stopped meaning anything. I need you to understand that I was reading this in bed, and now I physically cannot look at my hallway. Thanks for that. Please delete this post. That last one came with no explanation, no follow-up, just 5 words from someone who apparently knows exactly what OP is talking about. And that is the last story for today.